Hi guys, welcome back. I figured it was about time to do the second part of my Books on Neuroplasticity series. If you watched the first video, you got some of my feedback and some quotes from three of my favorite authors in the neuroplasticity realm. Those were Norman Doidge, Joe Dispenza, and Jane McGonigal of Super Better. This time I have three more that I want to share, and instead of sharing just their book, all three of these, I really enjoy reading them as authors. And when I read one, I couldn't stop reading everything that they had written. So I'll give you a little bit of everything. The first one is, if you were to do a search on neuroplasticity, I don't think her name would come up, but she's definitely talking about neuroplasticity in all of her work. And that's Dr. Lissa Rankin. She is a mainstream medical MD. She's a gynecologist and author of, this wasn't her first book, but it was the first one I read, Mind Over Medicine. That was a book that early on in my healing, once again, planted a seed. It was kind of like Norman Doidge's work. It started to make me realize that there was something I could do to empower myself to take my healing into my own hands. Wasn't quite ready to do the work yet, but it definitely propelled me in that direction. So unfortunately, I have lent out my copy of Mind Over Medicine, but I am going to read you a quote from that, and then I'll show you her second book, which I enjoyed as well. The first quote I like. It comes from her encounter with one of her patients when she realized that medicine, really effective medicine, goes beyond prescriptions and dietary plans and supplements. So she said, with all those negative emotions filling her mind and all those stress hormones coursing through her body, no vegetable, supplement, exercise program, or drug was going to be strong enough to counteract the harmful health effects of chronic stress responses on her body. That really gets to the heart of what was happening with me for all those years. I was doing everything I possibly could to feed my body what I thought it needed. But unfortunately, I was overlooking the biggest part, and that was the stress. And I don't mean I was just stressed out at work all the time and go, go, go. I had come a long way since those days, but I had a chronic stress loop taking place in my body that just kept me in fight or flight. And it was going to take really some deep introspection and some mind-body work to get that under control and make my parasympathetic nervous system my default so that my body could do what it does best, and that's heal. The second quote is actually a quote she took from Albert Schweitzer, who was a doctor in Germany and France, I think, a good while ago. It's supposed to be a professional secret, but I'll tell you anyway. We doctors do nothing. We only help and encourage the doctor within. Like I just said, our bodies want to heal, and we have immense power to direct that healing through self-directed neuroplasticity. And I love that book. That one I would say would be hands down my first choice for anybody who's new to this neuroplasticity and mind-body work as it pertains to healing. The second one of hers, though, that I read is fairly new, and it's The Anatomy of a Calling. And this one gets into some other realms of mind-body work, gets a little beyond the scientific, but it was fascinating to me. And it's because of this book that I was introduced to a woman named Martha Beck, and I'm going to get to her in just a minute. But first, the next author is Rick Hanson. And Rick Hanson is a PhD. He does all kinds of mind-body research and work. He's definitely brilliant. And in my health and wellness coaching master's program, his book, Buddha's Brain, is referenced over and over again in most of my classes. I have not read this cover to cover, but I've read bits and pieces, and it's always fascinating. I highly recommend this one. But the quotes that I'm going to use today come from a newer book, and that one is Hardwiring Happiness, which I love because it has really practical tools that those of us with mystery illnesses or symptoms that seem to baffle mainstream medicine, we can use. I mean, it's tools that we can walk away with and use on a daily basis to help rewire our brains. And there are several I want to share with you. The first one I printed out because it's kind of long. He says, imagine a day in which you feel generally fine. After waking up, you spend a few minutes in bed, lightly thinking about some of the people you'll see and the things you'll do. You hit traffic on the way to work, but you don't fight it. You just listen to the radio and don't let other drivers bother you. You may not be excited about your job, but today you're focusing on the sense of accomplishment you feel as you complete each task. On the way home, your partner calls and asks you to stop at the store. It's not your favorite thing to do after work, but you remind yourself it's just 15 extra minutes. In the evening, you look forward to a TV show and you enjoy watching it. Now let's look at the same day, but imagine approaching it in a different way. After waking up, you spend a few minutes in bed pessimistically anticipating the day ahead and thinking about how boring work will be. Today, the traffic really gets under your skin, and when a car cuts you off, you get angry and honk your horn. You're still rankled by the incident when you start work, and to make matters worse, you have an unbelievable number of rote tasks to get through. By the time you're driving home, you feel fried and you don't want to do a single extra thing. Your partner calls to ask you to stop at the store, and you feel put upon but don't say anything, and you go to the store. Then you spend much of the evening quietly seething that you do all the work around the house. Your favorite show's on, but it's hard to enjoy watching it. You feel so tired and irritated. Over these two imaginary days, the same exact things happened. All that was different was how your brain dealt with them, the setting that it used. We do have so much power to change our perspective. And so now I'm going to share with you a few more quotes on that note. And this goes back to something I talk about in my e-course, and it's just referred to a lot when we talk about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. That's our fight or flight, or our rest and digest. Our ancestors could make two kinds of mistakes. One, thinking there was a tiger in the bushes, thinking there was a tiger in the bushes when there really wasn't one. And two, thinking there was no tiger in the bushes when there actually was one. The cost of the first mistake was needless anxiety, while the cost of the second one was death. Consequently, we evolved to make the first mistake 1,000 times to avoid making the second mistake even once. And that's true when we're stuck in fight or flight and we are constantly searching our environment for things that are going to harm us. We're always looking out for the worst. And I talk about the negativity bias and the reason why our brains do that in my e-course as well. And so the last little quote I want to share is, with practice, you'll learn to light up the neural circuits of positive states even when you're rattled or upset, like reaching through clutter to get the tool you need. So once again, Hardwiring Happiness. I cannot recommend it highly enough, by Rick Hanson. And I'll put all these in the notes at the bottom of the blog. Now, the third author I referred to was Martha Beck, and I cannot say enough good things about her. When I found out about her, it took me no time at all to sign up for her coach training. I'm already wrapping up my master's, but I wanted to have another perspective on coaching so that I could be the most effective healer and coach that I could be for others who are suffering from these types of mystery symptoms. So every one of her books I've read. She's got memoirs that I absolutely loved, and then now she has self-help books. I would say a good self-help book to start with would be Finding Your Own North Star, and you can see I've got it filled with bookmarks. I'm not going to pull an example out of that one right now. Instead, I'm going to pull one out of one of her newer books, Finding Your Way in a Wild New World. Now, her books aren't science heavy. I think, and I think she would agree, they very much go hand in hand with what neuroplasticity is all about. But the way she writes, she speaks to her readers in a way that we can all relate. I mean, she's no idiot. She's got 3 degrees from Harvard, so she's very smart. but I think she's also very approachable and very understandable, and everything she puts in her self-help books are extremely practical tools for people who, like us, have found ourselves sensitive to the environment, to foods, to being fatigued easily, fibromyalgia pain, all those kind of mystery illnesses. And here's one. She talks about the path of torment, illness. And hopefully some of this will stick. So hopefully this will resonate with you. She says, I hope you never get sick, but most members of the team are, and she calls the team people like us, are intimate with illness. The mender's archetype often comes with an extremely sensitive neural apparatus, high anxiety, intense empathy, and insomnia. Perhaps this contributes to the illnesses that anthropologists call, quote, shaman sicknesses, which are usually chronic, painful, and stress-related. If you're a born wayfinder, you may have anything from migraines to irritable bowel syndrome to lupus. Do everything you can to feel better. Use every technique or medication your doctor prescribes, but also treat sickness as an opportunity to reach a very deep level of wordlessness, where pain is a mentally and emotionally neutral phenomenon, like a cloud in the sky, and you're not in pain, but in sacred silence. Without struggling against your pain, try the practices I mentioned above, which we didn't talk about, but feeling into your hands, your breath, your circulatory system. Watch how pain can change, becoming far more tolerable when the brain isn't focused on verbal thinking. That, in a nutshell, is a huge part of what I do when I help my clients. And I'd love to help you. You can find out more information on my blog. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed these 3 authors. I have come such a long way and have been enamored with their work, and I will share their details below. Thank you.